All right. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Ghost Show. There we go, the world's least appropriate theme song for this show, or as we affectionately know it, the theme song from Dracula and the Temple of Funk. I am Professor Christopher McLaughlin, and I am blessed to be the creative pit boss of Ghost Show Press. And this is our monthly-ish podcast to talk about all things related to ghost shows, cinema, or whatever enters into our slightly warped minds. And we have a fabulous array of guests here tonight. But before I get to them, if you're here, you may be here because you participated in the Kickstarter for our next book, Subversive Sci-Fi. And for those of you who are wondering about that, as it stands right now, of the 39 essays we were promised, 30 of them at this second on their way to the amazing layout diva Deb Ungerman, and 2 more are in the hands of our professional Canadian editor Spike Jones, who is probably putting a lot of OURs in there while I'm not looking, and they're changing their money up there. So I'm sure this is a stressful time for him. So yes, and the rest of them are supposed to be in my hands by Halloween, and what better time, right? So it's looking like we should have the ebook in your hands, metaphorically speaking, by the end of the year, and we thank you all very much for supporting us and your patience and your cooperation, and that's where we stand on the book. But where we stand on the podcast is we have a treat tonight, ladies and gentlemen. We have the maker of my new favorite film. And that would be the one and only, our super backer who helped make our dream come true, Mr. Tim Thomson. Welcome, Tim.
Thank you. Glad to be here. I'm really looking forward to the book.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. And also joining us tonight is the godfather of the Banff family of podcasts, Mr. Mike Lafferty. Mike, how are you doing tonight?
I am great. It's good to see you all. Alex, good to see you again. We just had you on the show about a month ago. So
yeah, not too long ago.
Nice to see you again from the darkest realms of Ohio.
Well, I just got back from Michigan, so it's a slight improvement.
I would agree.
You cleared the wall. The border guards didn't get you.
Yeah, it's those Toledo guys, man. They're still bitter about the whole war thing or whatever.
Yeah. You can eat your bride with some Krispy Kremes, though.
Mm-hmm.
And also joining us tonight is the one and only Alex Thomas, one of the star contributors to both Subversive Sci-Fi and Transgressive Horror. How you doing tonight, Alex?
I am wonderful. I'm glad to be back at my house. I've been out and about the last couple of weeks.
But nothing to do with the fine people of Michigan, who we all love and adore and count on for support here. All righty.
Oh, I'll take the whole Midwest down. Let's go. I'm from Ohio. We got opinions.
You know, I'm in Texas now, but I'm originally from Chicago and spent most of my childhood in Michigan. So
yeah.
Oh wow, were you in the Detroit area or Upper Peninsula?
I was more like in the Midland, Saginaw area, and also way up there in old Houghton, Michigan.
Oh wow! Because not to get too far, you talk about the culture shock of going to Houston, and now I have some idea of the magnitude of that. But again, I'm skipping ahead of the story here. All right. Well,
there was definitely some Michigan flavor in No Resistance. I felt that very much when I was watching it.
Well, for those of you people who would like to know about the hip, cool thing that we have found, Tim was kind enough to not only support our dreams, but to share with us one of his dreams that magnificently came true, and that is the film No Resistance. Which, if you haven't seen it, not only does it come with my personal recommendation, as you can see, I've seen a few movies in my time, but this one was just a complete and utter delight from start to finish. Really, 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 really super. And not only is it available on Blu-ray, thanks to the good folks at Vinegar Syndrome and their partner label Saturn's Core. The good people at Vinegar Syndrome are basically doing the Lord's work, as far as I'm concerned. Wouldn't you know it? I'm not making a dime off this. So this is legit. This is from the heart. They are having a sale this weekend. So if you rush over to, and I tell you what, I'm just going to go ahead. I'm going to drop the URL here for you good folks, because you really, seriously, you need to see this film if you haven't already. There you go. There you go. Oh, and I can do this too. Yeah, here you go. There we go.
Look at you figuring out technology. All right, Chris.
It's all, the film inspired me.
Okay.
I now have a whole new relationship with technology, having seen this. But go there. You can get it at a great price. And honestly, this thing is just loaded with extras. And the guy who runs our local Alamo has a term for, you're gonna love this movie because it's shot on Shittio, but really amazing upgrade from a super VHS source. But I think I'm taking all of Tim's stories. So Tim, you want to tell us a little bit about yourself and how you came to put together this amazing film?
Well, yeah, thanks again for having me. I really appreciate it. It's a lot of fun. So I'm here in Houston, Texas. I lived a lot of places in my life, including Michigan, as we talked about earlier. But I ended up in Texas for high school and college, and then came to Houston to become a working guy in the film and video business. But got involved in with a lot of really great friends, especially in high school, who have remained friends and collaborators throughout my life. In fact, some of them are probably watching right now. And we started off, like every indie filmmaker does, or especially in the 80s, doing little crappy short films on Super 8 and especially VHS, because it was available at the time. And we eventually had the hubris to decide that we wanted to make a feature film. And the principal writer, creator, and star of this piece came up with the idea of us trying to tackle cyberpunk, because we hadn't really seen it done. And that is the base genesis right there. We tried to figure out the cheapest, punkest way to do a cyberpunk thing on the streets of Houston with no money.
Now, would it be rude to ask how much this actually set you back?
No, not rude at all. And it's probably kind of surprising that it cost as much as it did, seeing as how cheap it looks. But it actually cost us about $7,000,
Wow.
$1992 to make. And that was literally costumes, food, transportation. Nobody got paid. Buying locations off and stuff like that. Squibs.
That is a Roger Corman-esque level of squeezing every bit of entertainment out of every penny that you had. That's
I mean, it was shot on SVHS, so it really wasn't going to go too much farther than that.
That answers my main question, which was, how did you make it look like you filmed this in the 90s? But the answer is you filmed it in the 90s.
It's the cheapest way to do it, my friend. It really is.
Try and travel back 20 years, everything's a lot cheaper.
I was like, they made Houston look really not like 90s, but that's okay.
And a case could be made that a lot of Houston still looks like it's in the 90s.
I was once in a film where we had to give the squid guy a role because we couldn't afford to pay him.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Oh.
Yeah.
Was he a squibbed role is the question.
No, he had lines. He didn't get shot. It was funny, but yeah.
No, we did it very cheaply for transportation money. We shot it over the summer of 1992, principally over the course of 3 weekends. David, the star, lived in Corpus Christi at the time, and so would have to travel up for a couple weekends. And we did it with the marvelous help of all of the friends that we had here in Houston. Band members are all over this thing. They were the ones who were like, cool, I'll do it. Let's have fun. The music was done completely by friends in Houston who were part of the sort of what I call the weird ass music scene in Texas at the time. friends, roommates, anybody we could drag into. It's the story.
Yeah. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Yeah. Now, your cast, was there a lot of acting experience before you did this, or is this just sheer we're going to put on a show?
5 people have considerable acting experience,
Hmm.
and the rest did not ever consider once that they would do such a thing. Myself included, because I'm also terrible. It was literally grab people who could show up. In fact, I don't like, not to get into the plot too much, but there are 2 gangs that are kind of a part of this thing.
Mhm.
And the very first night we shot, one of the gangs was going to be a band friends of ours, who were supposed to show up that night in an alley and shoot the beginnings of one of the gangs, and they never showed up.
Oh no.
And I was like, forget it. We're done. Shut this down. Nobody can ever make a movie. That's a stupid idea.
Oh,
And a couple of people, thankfully, Mike Schneider, who was one of the producers, and several other people went, nah, we'll go get some people. And so they ran next door to a bar, a Rice University college bar called the Ginger Man, and just went in there and went, hey, who wants to be in a movie? And they found 3 or 4 people at a bar table, and they were like, sure. And he dragged them to the alley, and we shot all of those scenes. And then those people stayed with us the entire summer.
that's great.
And they all became great friends, and some of them I still work with to this day.
Oh, that's great. That's great. All righty.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, I ask you about a couple of the actors that really jumped out to me. Okay. All right. David Rains as our main character, Dish. Okay. You in the documentary that comes with it, there's a warning that, like, we're going to base this around an unsympathetic central character. All right. How much of that was in the page, and how much was that just him?
All in, well, both, because he wrote the script.
Hey. Yeah. Well, I'm just saying, when you read it on the page, were you surprised by what you got on screen?
No, it was really by design. I mean, it sounds weird to say, but this thing was engineered very completely. So we had a full script. It got storyboarded out very well. All of the beats. David is a really great writer. He understands genre stuff like crazy. He knows exactly where the Hammett is in this, and he knows exactly where the Gibson is in this, and what the measure was. So literally, David said, "I'm playing him. He's a cockroach."
Yeah, he was very Byronic. This was a very Byronic hero who just like sucked the whole time.
Yeah, and wants you to know it, that he's proud of that.
Yeah. I also kind of like that his tragic flaw was the reason he survived. Like, not to get into spoilers, but like, it wasn't his downfall. It was like, that was his secret weapon. Was
right. Somebody on Letterboxd recently wrote, "My God, please make it so that in the future my amphetamine addiction will make me safe from viruses."
There were moments I had to just pause it and just drink in what I had just seen, and as a child of the 80s, just thinking, oh my God, the message of this film is just say yes.
Well,
and that, there were so many things I loved it, but that may have been the cherry on top right there.
It was the 90s.
Okay. Yeah, I definitely watched this thinking it was filmed recently, and it's amazing how much from the 90s is still relevant now.
That is so cool. I have no idea what your experience is for that.
Yeah,
that perspective must have been very odd.
Yeah, I was like, I don't know how they made this so cheap to make it seem like such a period piece. But it's wild how many of the themes and the characters are still like, they feel like they were written by somebody who's alive now. Like, I don't know, it seemed relevant to the 2020s despite being 30 years ago.
Well, that is super cool. I can tell you, we probably wouldn't have changed anything except that we probably would have made it work with the internet.
Yeah, and it sort of felt like somebody's like Shadowrun campaign came to life.
We were just talking about gaming before you guys logged in.
Yeah, I work in gaming. That's my background. So
Yeah.
seeing that stuff, I was like, yeah, this feels like this is Cyberpunk 2077 come to life.
Which is very cool. I had never played that. I was talking before we started the gun here that I did play some games in the 80s. But I was a fan of the weird ones, I guess, because I played Top Secret and Gamma World.
Oh,
Yeah.
Gamma World's great. I love Gamma World.
But never played the Cyberpunk ones.
Hmm.
But we were such huge Gibson and Sterling fans. I
Yes.
mean, that's where it comes from.
Mhm.
And then David said, also, we can rip off Red Harvest. So let's do that.
You know, I absolutely one of my claims to fame / infamy was doing a book about how to incorporate film noir themes into tabletop gaming, and I was amazed at the hard-boiled influence to it. But one in particular that I loved was not to spoil it too much, but there's a scene where the character it to me it immediately took me back to Edmund O'Brien and DOA. There's a character who's been told he's got X number of hours to live.
Mhm.
And you guys do the exact opposite of that film.
He just gave up. I was so here for that.
Yes.
Thank you. Yes, I'm a huge DOA fan. Both versions of it, including the Ellen Barkin one.
Whoa.
Yeah, that was definitely in there. Definitely in there.
Yeah, I did love all the. I did feel the noir influence just like through it, and I write fantasy noir, so I'm used to looking for noir where it's not usually found, and I don't like to bring up the word noir around the Go Show boss here because he has very specific ideas of what that is.
Another lifetime. Go right ahead. It was another lifetime.
This is a great example of that because it is exactly not noir in the sense that it's all done almost exclusively in the extreme bright sunlight, in shitty, non-evocative environments like office cubes, and it's anti-noir, but the script is completely Hammett. There's no getting around it.
But you know the office spaces and that I thought that really fed into the zeitgeist of the age. You know, I had just by the time you're making your film, I had just finished up my undergrad, and I like to tell people my graduation present was 8 months of unemployment. So, you know, the idea of being trapped in one of those environments, and life, like, oh, I've got 27 hours left. Fuck it, who cares? Yeah,
I'm gonna get as high as possible. I'm gonna set a record, is what the.
That was my first non-journalism professional writing gig at that time. It was pretty dystopian, almost cyberpunkian. We were writing hardware catalogs, second shift, and then drinking heavily afterwards. So
that's a film right there. Just
we were actually trying to make a movie while we were doing that, but the drinking got in the way. So you gotta have your priorities straight, and our priority was drinking. So.
I was one in 1992, so I don't really remember.
You what?
I was born in 1991.
You were born a week after my wife and I started dating.
Mm-hmm.
So what are you into, Alex? Like Pokemon or what? I don't know what to say to you now.
Well, you know.
Okay.
I still like Humphrey Bogart and Sam Spade and all that stuff.
All right. So, okay. Random question about the film. Okay, the whole thing with David Rains eating packs of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Did that kill the poor man? I think, like, God, I hope there wasn't like a time where he had like 5 takes where he's just downing these ramen packs.
Yeah, there were.
Oh,
There were, and it nearly killed him. I mean, I think he'll tell you. The mustard was great. The soy sauce was fine. The sweet and low will definitely kill you.
Oh God. Oh, I just my heart has rarely gone out to an actor to that degree.
Hey, he wrote it.
Yeah, that's on him.
Yeah, he put that together, and he also doesn't smoke. So,
oh my gosh,
there was a lot of smoking going on.
Oh, and that was the 90s, so they didn't have fake cigarettes yet.
No. In fact, he smokes Sobrini Black Russians throughout the film, which are terrible.
Oh.
Terrible. So he would do multiple takes, and sometimes at the end he would have to take 30 seconds and just
Oh
put some water.
gosh.
That's commitment to the bit.
I was watching as I was watching that how he's constantly getting harassed by his smoking.
Mhm.
I thought in a way that was sort of prescient in its way because I once saw John Waters do a one-man show, and he was pondering like after you've done Pink Flamingos and all that, and you're in your 70s and it's the 21st century, how do you still shock people?
Right.
And he said the closest thing I've come up with is smoking. That's the only thing that really seems to surprise people these days.
That wasn't that prescient in that was exactly the time when they were starting to ban smoking indoors. And famously in Houston, somewhere in the 1992 to 1994 era, there was a neighborhood in Houston called Bel Air that was looking to legislate smoking in public areas.
Oh my gosh.
And that was sort of like the tip of the smoking coming down. And so we were making fun of that. It wasn't prescient as much as it was responsive.
Wow. Okay. All right. Okay. So, all right, a couple more actors I have to ask you about. How did you find Frank Mendez?
Oh, Frank worked with us in Corpus at the television studio.
Oh, okay.
An extremely gifted actor. See, a lot of us went to high school together. One of my mothers in actual life is David Rains's mother, J.J. Rains, who was the theater, speech, and debate teacher at Carroll High School in Corpus Christi. And she, like, I was another one of her kids, seriously. And Irving Cutter, all of those guys came from that school. And then when we left school and we dispersed for college and we did various things, Irving went to Rice University, so he was the first Houstonian. Frank Mendez and a number of us went to work at the public television station in Corpus Christi. That's where we got our early industry craft chops.
Okay.
Right. So Frank Mendez worked at the station with me and David and Michael Rains and a bunch of other people. Extremely gifted actor. Unfortunately, no longer with us. Was a working actor in Dallas for most of the 90s and early 2000s after No Resistance. I can't tell you anything about him that would make sense except that he is probably the best actor, like real acting.
I was very impressed by the amount of genuine menace you get out of him.
Yeah.
So yeah. All right.
Yeah, the part was written for him.
Oh, that's perfect.
Specifically.
All right, and got one more guy I need to represent for here. Dave Ward.
Dave Ward. He was at the time, or up until a few years ago, the longest running continuous major market television newscaster in the United States.
Really?
He was the gentleman who broke the chicken. He was the foil for the guy in the television station that broke the Chicken Ranch story. He had been the head anchor at Channel 13 in Houston, ABC, since 1963.
Wow.
So he was the sane person opposite of the Chicken Ranch guy.
Yeah. The same person who had to work with the Chicken Ranch guy. Who was the anchor who had to pass it to the Chicken Ranch guy. Anyway, a Houston celebrity, an honest to God, one of the best old school broadcaster types. He's still here in Houston. He does charity work. He does appearances. He's retired.
Well, that's great because he's got this great kind of Rory Calhoun, kind of Buddy Ebsen, just how he just seems to inhabit that character.
Yep. Texan dudes, man. They're so, when they're authentic like that, they're so great. Mm-hmm. David and I worked for an auto shop owner in Corpus named Scooter Stokes.
Scooter.
Yeah. And he'd have 7 cigarettes lit all over the store. And then you'd be like, Scooter, whatever, and blah, blah, blah. And he goes, son, this is where the rubber hits the road now.
Oh, my.
And David is like that, but he's also a consummate broadcaster. And I mean that in the old school analog.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? great guy. I don't think he knew what he was getting into. I think he thought it was a prank. But he never backed down. Like, we shot half the bar stuff on Saturday because we were allowed to use the bar, and we had to wrap up. We weren't done shooting yet. And he went, "Well, we'll be coming back tomorrow morning then, right?" I'm like, if you would, sir, that would be great. And he's like, "Yep."
He had a great presence throughout the whole story. I like that he was sort of the grounding point for the protagonist.
Yeah.
We got so lucky. We got so lucky with everyone who wanted to dive into this. I mean, just people came out of the woodwork. It's really the sum total of the frontier was so weird back then.
Mm.
It was the moment where clueless amateurs like ourselves could have just enough access to equipment that could barely sketch to the quality that might be considered not looking like a home movie. But at the same time, nobody was going around going, "Let's make movies."
Mhm.
So we were like, "Let's make movies," and they're like, "You're making a movie?" Yeah, kind of. And when they saw the VHS camera, they'd be like, "Oh, okay, yeah,
Oh, it's that kind of movie.
yeah." But they were still game, and it was fun. And Houston had a real scene back then, so.
Hmm. Oh, one other thing that popped in my head as I was watching the movie is the scene that you shoot in the hotel.
Mhm.
I had sort of hypothesized there must have been a time where you guys have VHS equipment, a guy and a girl, and you go up to the owner like, "Hey, can we rent a room to shoot a movie?"
Yes, that is exactly what happened.
Did they ever give you any like you guys are making a porn, right?
No,
It's legal if you bring a camera.
yeah, kind of, but it was really fun. So, like, I'm stupid me. Anybody would just like rent a room and then sneak in there and not mess with anything. But I was literally like calling hotels saying, "We're going to shoot a movie scene in a room, and you don't have to get alone." And, we'd like your permission to do that because, well, we needed to use the front desk too, so you couldn't
Yes.
fake that. So eventually, I called a guy who was at one of the hotels near the airport at Greenspoint. I mean, a major hotel. It was either a Sheraton or a Hilton. I forget which. And I did explain it like that. We're gonna shoot a movie scene in a room. I'm gonna bring a guy and a girl and some lights and a video camera. And he's like, "You're not doing porn, right?" And I am like, "We are not doing porn. We are not doing porn." I showed him the script. And he's like, "Well, he sleeps with the woman in the room." I'm like, "Yeah, but
It's off screen. We
it's
fade to black. Don't you see this pithy one-liner?
Yeah. And he was literally like, "Good, that's what I need. There's the desk that we don't use generally. You can use that one." And
True story you might appreciate. AIP was shooting a biopic of the Marquis de Sade. They were going to try to shoot it in Franco's Spain because the production costs were so cheap down there. But it's still this right-wing fascist regime that's like policing like anything with too much sexual content, and they were demanded that they see a script before they let you in the country. So they dug up a copy of Abe Lincoln in Illinois and submitted that to the Franco government. But just in case, they paid a guy to sit around the set in an Abe Lincoln costume, just in case any of Franco's guys showed up, that they could immediately flip on a dime and start pretending to shoot Abe Lincoln.
That's wild.
that is wonderful.
Making movies is nuts.
Yes.
That is wonderful.
Oh, all
Can I
right.
ask how long the shoot process took, and then how long like post-production, editing, and whatnot took?
Yeah, of course. So we shot it in the summer of '92, and it was shot mostly over the course of 3 weekends. So it was pretty intense. Boom, 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 boom. Shot it on a consumer grade Magnavox SVHS home recorder. Because it was SVHS at the time, it was like a $2,000 camera.
I'll be right back in a sec. Go ahead.
And we couldn't edit it right away to the broadcast quality that we were hoping to get. So it took a little longer. We actually posted it by the summer of '94. So there was like a year off, and there was like a rough cut that I was just doing on VHS. And then in 1994, there was probably about a 3 to 5 month actual post production period, because the company that I worked for at the time had then gotten one of the first digital nonlinear edit systems, which was the famous Video Cube. And then everything could be put to beta, digitized, edited nonlinearly, and then put back to beta. So it was SVHS transferred and then edited to a beta master. And in 94, then we spent about a 2-year period just self-marketing it. And that was really the life of it.
How do you market any indie film like that? Conventions, or especially back in the 90s? What would you do?
Conventions and magazines like Psychotron.
Could you please tell us the Dave Sim story as you answer this?
Conventions, some festivals, and there was a plethora of zines back then. Psychotronic, Alternative Cinema, Film Threat. You could take out ads and get reviews from them. In fact, we got a really great review from Alternative Cinema, and it had an ad in it. So it went to video stores, not only in Houston, but it went to like Kim's Video in New York and Video Eye in San Francisco and in Austin, and in LA. There were these rogue copies that were bought as one-offs, and they were out there. And that was as far as it went. Until Saturn's Court got in touch with me about 4 years ago.
Oh, could you tell us the Dave Sim story, please?
Tell you the what?
The Dave Sim story.
Oh, yeah. That's funny that you brought that up.
Yeah.
So, yeah, one of the conventions we brought No Resistance to was Dave Sim's self-publishing conference, Spirits of Independence, which was what, 94 or was it 95? It was somewhere in 94, 95. Dave Sim, the creator of Cerebus, the Aardvark, toured the country, and he got all the self-publishing comics people together. So Rick Veitch, who was doing Rarebit Fiends, and Colleen Doran, and the Peonies, and in Houston, we have the guy who did, and now I'm going to blank out on his name. Of course, a lot of indie comics were going on at the time. Dave Sim rallied them all under the Spirits of Independence, and he made this independent comic creator tour across the country. So we wrote him. We wrote Dave Sim and went, "Hey, Dave, longtime fan, because we're all Cerebus fans. You're coming to Austin. I know that this is about publishing, but we're sort of self-publishing a movie. Can we come?" And we sent him a copy of it. And he went, "I don't know. I guess that's self-publishing. Sure." And so he let us go into the Austin convention and hawk our wares amongst the comics people. We are all huge comics people, by the way. That's the number one love. So it was a thrilling weekend in which we got to hang out with Dave Sim.
Wow.
And sold a couple copies.
Is Dave as much a character as he seems on his online persona?
Well, he wasn't crazy yet. Or he wasn't that crazy yet. I suspect he was always crazy. No, he was a consummate professional, honestly, then. I mean, the guy was running this convention like a ship, and it came off really well, and it was pretty amazing, actually. And we did not really hang out with him. We were very outliers. I think we had a quick drink in the bar with him and Rick Beach, and that was fun.
Oh, wow. Okay. All right. So, okay, now my greatest unanswered question, having made it all the way through this. Okay. So you mentioned that there are a couple of sequel-ish type things floating around about No Resistance, and you had mentioned the difficulties in trying to get them made today. So I ask you, fellow comics fan, have you ever thought about doing graphic novel sequels?
I have not. Because that is not where my talents lie. I am a filmmaker, definitely. I love comics, but I couldn't make one to save my life. Also, Didge and his various incarnations are very definitely David's. So he is the guy that you would ask about this. But I think it might. as Richard as Peter O'Toole was asked once, "What do you think of the British cinema?" He said, "I think it would be a very good idea."
Fair.
Well, I will make the offer if you and David Rains ever think about this. We do know some artists. We do have some experience with Kickstarter, and if you guys want to give this another run, we would be happy to help you like you so kindly helped us make our thing happen. We would love to pay that back.
Interesting, cool. So I'll tell you really quick. I don't want to bore it for too long, but immediately after making No Resistance, or somewhere around 96, 97, David did write a really great feature sequel to No Resistance called No Return. And it was about Didge having escaped from Houston, went to Mexico. And it actually finds him in an abandoned Gulf oil production platform, just sitting on the edge of the platform, having been abandoned there by the drug runners that he had run afoul of in Mexico, and gets saved by a helicopter sent by a guy who wants him to run security for figuring out why someone is hacking the autonomous cars in the Maquiladora border auto plant that he's running in Mexico.
Self-driving cars, you say?
Yeah. So it was a really far-reaching, really amazing script, which actually was a finalist in the Austin Film Screenplay Competition at the time. But we were talking a lot of money for that one.
Yeah.
I
saw the $7,000 burned through the second you mentioned the word helicopter.
Yeah, a lot of money for that one. But it was really good. It was very spaghetti western. There's a bit of spaghetti western in No Resistance. This one was absolutely spaghetti western by design, and it was great. And it ended with him having to trick his way back over the Texas border.
Oh,
so
wow.
that would have been awesome. But we never made it. Then around 2011, the idea came around again that that everybody kept asking, when are you going to do a sequel to No Resistance? And we're like, you can't now because the internet. None of that makes any sense.
You still can. Just set it you still can just set it in an alternate Earth.
Well, yeah, kind of. But what we came up with was the idea that it wouldn't be about Didge. It would be about somebody else who was a more of like an anonymous era hacker persona that Didge would be peripheral to. And it was about the fact that Didge didn't know the internet. But it was about him being on the forefront of figuring out how to mess with optical recognition technology. Like because he was such a latecomer to the internet, he was the first one to realize how not to be seen by the internet. So whereas No Resistance was about he was developing new ways of seeing that didn't technologically exist for most people, in the new one, he was the one coming up with the ways of technologically not being seen. And it was all about this woman who was a new kind of hacker, having to rely on a crusty old white guy to get it. And it was also a great script, and it had a huge amount to do with drones and autonomous cars and a bunch of other stuff. And I swear to God, this is how the cycles work. That one was out of date in a year and a half.
Yeah, that's the trouble with working stories around technology. Is technology changes day to day. Like, by the time you have the story written and published, it's already late.
Yeah. So David may be listening, or I'll bring it up to him. But he is a fun character, that Didge.
Yeah, and there is something to be said about bringing legacy characters back to solve problems 30 years later in the current cinema zeitgeist.
Absolutely. Well, it's just when you're talking about your love of comic books and how you had all this great unpublished material around, that just immediately clicked in my mind. And really the fact that I'm a publisher shows it's easier than ever to do it. if I'm doing it, that bar is sunk really low. Yes. Although, and of course, I'm going to say nice things about Mike, and he's off doing other stuff. But and Alex, I'm like you. I'm surrounded by great people, so I think that's the recipe for doing anything creative these days.
Oh, it always has been, right? I mean,
yes. Now, for fans of your work, we were discussing in the pre-show that you had some news to share with about Possession.
oh, right.
You want to talk about Possession and share the news if we can share the news?
Yeah. Well, let's see how I can frame this. So, well, this is a little bit about the shot on video scene in the '90s, and I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about that.
Please go right ahead.
But to cut to the chase, and then I'll circle back. After we did No Resistance, which was a handcrafted DIY distributed on VHS thing in the '90s, I hadn't been aware of it up to that point, but was suddenly aware that there were a lot of people all over the country who were doing this. It was a really weird time in that, like I sort of mentioned earlier, the technology had come into people's hands just at the point now where anybody could do something. In the '80s, there were some shot on video features. There have definitely been independent genre things done since the '60s. But they, and especially in the '80s, always had to be geared toward a very specific market, i.e., what can I sell to drive-ins or what can I sell to video stores? But by the time the '90s rolled around, we had more technology and less incentive to play to a market. So when in the '80s, when you see independent stuff, it's all horror, it's all slashers.
Oh yeah,
it's all naked babes running through the woods. Not all, but I'm being a little cold. But then in the '90s, you saw this explosion of stuff that had no market whatsoever. And No Resistance is the most boring example of that. You had guys like Scooter McCrae and Charles Pinion and all of these that were making complete wild genre mashups of stuff specifically because they could, and nobody else was going to make anything like that. And I got involved in people all over the country who were doing those things at the time. And there was a gentleman in New York by the name of Kevin Lindemuth, and he ran at the time an outfit called Brimstone Productions. They were creating shot on video stuff in New York, but he was also writing a book about shot on video street level DIY guys, and I became a part of his book. He asked me to tell the No Resistance story. Got involved with him. They all knew that I had been doing very rudimentary, terrible digital, nascent early digital effects for No Resistance, and they're all like, "We want some digital effects. Can you work on our films?" And I'm like, "Hell yeah!" And then I started doing digital effects, and we started doing digital effects for Kevin Lindemuth, among others, and he was developing this science fiction series of combined short videos into anthology features called Alien Agenda. It was a lot of fun. So like 3 filmmakers all over the country would send in a half an hour of stuff, and then he'd cram them all in together into this compilation feature. And he did a couple of those, and I did special effects for them. And then he went, "Well, I'm going to do another compilation series, but it's about monsters this time. We're going to call it Creature Realm. Would you do one of the segments?" And David and I said, "Yeah, let's do it. We got an idea." And so for the Creature Realm project, we created a 55-minute short feature, which was a comedy horror courtroom drama called Possession is 9/10 of the Law. Yeah, brilliant script by David Rains. It's about a woman who kills and eats her husband and then is brought up on charges and put on trial for the murder. But the defense, this sort of on the fringes defense attorney looking for his métier in life, as it were, discovers that she was possessed, and so the basis of his defense is that she was the murder weapon and not the murder, and proceeds to do a trial, and the whole thing is a trial, and we love the court. I always wanted to make a courtroom movie. I love the fact that it's based on a set of rules, but the rules just get subverted all the I just love the cliches of it, like, objection, Your Honor, this witness wasn't even on the list, some stuff like that, except that the trial proceeds from the woman being on trial to the murder victim being on trial, because they actually haul his corpse into the court and reanimate him so that he can testify that it wasn't actually his wife, it was a demonic possession, until eventually they have to figure out a way to call the demon to the stand. And it's funny. Funny. And Kevin Lindemuth and Brimstone is now also, as a part of this huge nostalgia for the era, is bringing back all of the Brimstone productions as special edition Blu-rays. So we're hoping to see those soon. I don't know what the schedule is, but he's re-releasing his early features. He's re-releasing Alien Agenda, and he's re-releasing Creature Realm, probably as like one big Blu-ray.
Oh wow, that's great.
And
that's
so you can see Creature Realm again after 25 years.
Or rediscover it. Introduce it to a whole new audience.
I'm really into Possession. I want to see that immediately.
That one looks so much better than No Resistance, because that one we shot on actual Beta SP. It's still 4:3 SD, but a cinematographer by the name of Christopher Hogan shot it, and it is a beautiful looking piece, way better than the gritty old VHS stuff.
Although in No Resistance's defense, the sort of the grungy downscale of it adds to the mise en scène of it all. I think it's a net plus, all things considered.
I love it when you talk French, Chris.
You mean I blow through like half the French I know?
Oui.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, a lot of the people who are doing the stuff for Saturn's Core are remastering everything. They're actually going back and they're re-editing. Scooter McRae's Shatter Dead is a gorgeous looking piece of work, because he originally shot it on Beta, I do believe. And he went back to the shots and recut it. I think Charles Pinion did some of this as well. And I admit to not doing that. Nah. So we had the Beta Master up-resed, and the up-res was professionally done. It looked really good, but it still has all the junky stuff that was in there from the original one. And we kept it that way.
Well, given, would you, you might have gotten in there, started tinkering, the next thing you know, there's this whole Diz shot first controversy going on, and
nobody got time for that.
I did really dig that this piece, the world building, was really straightforward. Like, it didn't get bogged down and stuff like that. Like, it presented the world to you as it needed to be, and it was organic, and I don't know, it was efficient storytelling, and there's not enough of that around anymore.
I so appreciate that, and I turn that over completely to David Rains and Irving Cutter. That was all them. David had the whole plan straight, and Irving actually, as the backstory, worked out an alternate history in 1991 for the fall of the Soviet Union, in which he weirdly predicted the Gorbachev coup by a month from when it actually happened.
Wow.
It was really strange. And we had the Gulf War was happening right then, and we just there was a lot of stuff hitting us, and it just kind of worked into that.
Yeah, I will confess that I watched the bonus materials first, and I just said this could be really 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 good. And the thing that really made me think, oh yeah, is when I popped in the disc and 85 minutes running time, and I'm thinking, oh my god, this understands the rule of the drive-in. If you can't get it done in under 90 minutes, ask yourself, is it still worth doing? And I think, okay, 85 minutes. This is, there you go, perfect. This is gonna, and absolutely perfect. Not a wasted frame.
Oh, I don't know. The first 20 minutes are unbearable to me.
What I like about the first 20 minutes is it's like the Indiana Jones beginning, where it just presents what Diz's normal life is and like what a Diz adventure is, and then we get the full on adventure after that.
It just wasn't shot well, but yeah, David said that. David is like, well, remember, David is making Red Harvest. He's making Yojimbo. He's making Fistful of Dollars. But we understand what a samurai is, and we understand what a cowboy does, but nobody understands what a Dig does. So he literally had to explain the gunslinging part of it because it wasn't already in the language.
But he didn't sit us down and talk to us about it. He showed us in a nice bite-sized. That's good. It's good world building.
Well, that's all on him.
Oh, okay. I had a couple of questions about the first 20 minutes, if you don't mind. Okay. I noticed the Houston PD gets a thank you at the end of your movie, and if it was that for the one guy there with the megaphone.
Oh no, that was actually Chris Hogan, the cinematographer of Possession is 9/10 of the Law. I don't know. Oh no, I'll tell you why HPD got a thank you. They didn't arrest us that one night. So
that was gonna be my guess.
You know the scene in the parking garage where they grab Dig and they throw him against the fence? That was done in my apartment complex at like 2 a.m. And we started to do that scene, and somebody called the police and said there are like gang members running around the parking garage with all these guns and stuff.
They've got American flags on their foreheads, man.
Cautionary tale, people, because this will never happen again. But the police showed up. Two squad cars showed up and interrupted, and you could see the guys who were band members. They weren't band members. They were like guys who played bass in Dead Horse and Poor Dog. And they're like tucking the fake guns in their belts, and the cops go over and they're like, "What are we doing? We're making a movie." And you can see I have a camera on my shoulder. And like, cool. Okay, we've gotten some complaints, so you gotta wrap this up or keep it down. And we're like, yes, absolutely. And then they're like, so do you need cops? And they're like, not in this scene, but like, hang out. And they left, and that's why we thank them.
Oh,
thank you for not booking us.
I miss the 80s or 90s where you had interaction with the cops and they would just be cool. Kids just pour out the beer, ditch the side of the road, and go home. Everything will be fine.
Nowadays, no, never again.
Yeah, sadly. Yeah, and there's one small moment at the beginning that just absolutely stole my heart. Is all the scenes in the Chinese restaurant.
Yeah,
is every now and again you get a look at the guy behind the counter.
That was Sam. He actually owned the chicken and egg roll.
I was gonna ask that has to be the original owner because he looks so nonplussed no matter what is going on. This is a guy that just wants to make sure that your egg roll is hot and fresh, and just he's so natural. I still dream about those egg rolls, Chris. Oh,
I miss that restaurant so much.
Oh,
we ate there all the time. He knew us. I bought the restaurant from him for that day.
Oh,
like
wow.
If we bought him out. We said, what do it take what do we pay you that we can just do this today? And he told us the price. And he sat there and made food for us all day while we.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, Sam.
Great.
An egg roll.
That's great. All right. Okay. All right. Okay. I've got you here. I have to ask this question.
All right.
In your documentary on the disc, there's some great flashback photos of you and your friends going back to high school. and there's a high school photo of you guys.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I may have been, my mind may have completely made this up, but is there a picture in there where you guys are doing like a Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas cosplay?
Well, kind of. It wasn't. It wasn't. That wasn't the original intent. It was like a 3 personas thing. I don't know. David is definitely Hunter S. Thompson, and Chris Jones is doing some kind of Lou Reed thing. And I was definitely in a sort of a Philip Marlowe thing.
Oh, that's great. That's great because I saw that and I started thinking like these are the guys you wish you could have hung out with in high school.
Well, nobody else in our high school agreed with you, but thank you.
That was my motivation there. Totally. All righty. Okay. Well, we're down to our last few minutes in our usual time slot here, and Alex apparently has had to leave, and
He's had enough.
uh,
Can I before we lose time? I just want to like give a shout out to the Saturn's Core people.
yes,
If I can do that.
absolutely.
So Saturn's Core is this was originally this the creator's label for VHS in New Jersey, actually, started by Ross Snyder and William Hellfire. And originally they were finding these weird, obscure VHS things, and they were repressing VHSs for the collector's market.
Wow.
Like if you couldn't get an original VHS, you could get a new VHS release. And I started talking to them, and Ross in particular, about 5 years ago. Long time process. And they're just like, well, let's get a Master of No Resistance and we'll print some VHS copies. It'll be great. Because he was really super supportive about like resurrecting it. So the whole thing that's happening now is really because of his just relentless pursuit of these lost to time things. But it just so happened that Ross and William Hellfire made this great documentary called Mail Order Murder, and I really recommend it because it is a fantastic documentary about a company in New Jersey that all during the 80s and 90s and up till today made shot on video for demand market genre stuff that's completely crazy, and in some cases completely sexually explicit fetish stuff.
Thanks for the warning.
So the documentary is great, and they went to OCN and Vinegar Syndrome, and Vinegar Syndrome wanted to release the documentary, and they and OCN were very interested in what Ross and William were doing with Saturn's Core, and they're like, well, why don't we just do a Blu-ray thing with all the people that you're going to put out these VHSs from? Why don't you let's really preserve the 90s indie DIY stuff and make collectors Blu-rays out of them. And once they made that transition, they have been tireless champions of saving the stuff that is, like, let's face it, especially in No Resistance terms, it's just, weird, cheap old stuff, but very nostalgic. And they are doing great, great things. So again, they've resurrected the films of Scooter McCrae,
Yeah.
and Charles Pinion. I knew these guys back then. I was a huge Charles Pinion fan. We like early email days would like trade stuff back and forth. There's a bunch of other great things that they're doing. There's more releases coming out, and I just can't thank them enough for taking the time and trouble to worry about No Resistance, because it's been just a hell of a lot of fun. And seeing the stuff that they come out with every month is a joy.
Absolutely. For somebody that is always looking for something out of the ordinary to watch, Vinegar Syndrome, Saturn's Core, all those people, they have just been a godsend. I mean, just to break us out of the tedium of a lot of reimaginings and reboots and revisitings and things like that, to show us something fresh and original. And No Resistance was certainly that. And it was it was well, we're almost out of time. Well, it was an honor and a pleasure having you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. This
You're
was
very
great
welcome.
fun, and it was an honor. And man, looking forward to the book. Like,
Thank
can't
you.
wait.
Soon.
Thank you. Yes, yes. All right. Well, Alex, before we all say goodnight, you want to talk about what you're up to?
Oh, no good, probably. Actually, I do have some news. I will be the guest of honor at the Pittsburgh Gaming Expo this
You're here.
weekend. If anybody is in Pittsburgh and wants to come hang out and listen to me talk about writing for superhero RPGs, I'll be talking for an hour to hopefully more than just myself.
Yeah. All right. And Mike, what's coming up this week on the BAF family of podcasts?
Tomorrow at noon Mountain Time, we are doing a 1-hour RPG session. We call them our lunchtime beat 'em ups, playing the upcoming RPG Forgotten Ruin. Walt Billiard will be running it, and the elevator pitch is U.S. Army Rangers at Helm's Deep. Should be a lot of fun.
All right. All right. Well, thank you, gentlemen, for joining us. It was a lot of fun. And thank you all for tuning in. Thank you all for support what we do here at Ghost Show. You got 3 hours to follow our link. Go buy No Resistance and all the other great stuff at Saturn's Core. You got 3 hours left in the sale. So as soon as you leave here, go to the sale. And thank you all very much. We will be back November-ish. We'll be doing a show on 50s sci-fi. And keep an eye on the Ghost Show Facebook page for more details on that. Thank you all very much for joining us. And this has been the Ghost Show.